Thank you, Senator Menendez. Senator Tillis is recognized from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I don't know if this is already in the record, but if not, I'd seek unanimous consent to enter Mr. Antoni's article, "Why Are We Raising Homebuyer Cost for Responsible Borrowers," into the record. Thank you.
So,
Mr. Antoni, I like the article. I particularly like the content of the article. Also, you taught me a new word, defenestrate it, which is throwing something out the window. I didn't know that. I don't know.
Senator Tillis, there's the great defenestration of 1649. There is, correct?
Outside of your baseball knowledge,
That's not baseball. That's
you know that. But
somebody threw a monk or somebody, right? Dr. Antoni, who was it? Somebody was
yes.
anyway in the Czech Republic, I believe.
well, ChatGPT gave me an update.
Somebody
on that,
check that out.
But I'm going to be honest, I did not know that word. But I do.
Senator Tillis, you now have 4 minutes left.
I do know. I guess the concern that I have, and you noted it in the article, the FHFA, the sort of changing. I mean, I feel like we're almost creating a social engineering dimension to what has historically been a fact-driven actuarial underwriting process. Mm-hmm. Your past history, based on your ability to pay, has weight in what you ultimately have to pay for a loan. And if you are more likely to default, you have to pay a slightly higher fee. If you're less likely to default, you pay a lower fee. But with the new rule, it seems to me you're sending the message, the FHFA is sending a message to mortgage originators that, we're going to charge an average of about $15,000 more to somebody with good credit over the next 30 years. We're going to save the person with marginal credit about $8,000 a year. How does that not potentially translate into problems later on as these loans or after these mortgages default rate goes up on ones that are being undercharged for the risk that they're rated after they flow from origination to distribution?
Well, Senator, it's going to increase costs across the system really throughout the housing market. And frankly, we're seeing the exact same thing just put on steroids, I think, with the Basel III endgame regulations.
Yeah, and happily we've heard Chairman Powell say that needs a lot of work, but I think you're right. I guess I'm kind of wondering, where I struggled when I was getting my first house. My parents only owned about a house about half the time that I was growing up, and sometimes they owned a trailer, sometimes we rented one. So, I was somebody who had to work my way through a journey to be able to afford a house. Mm-hmm. So I'm working hard, saving money, borrowing money for my first house in Atlanta, Georgia. It sounds like to me if I was reliving that experience that I had back in about 1988, that I've got a good credit score now. And my reward for working hard and saving money and getting to that point and a down payment is to have a higher underlying cost. So why wouldn't this create a disincentive for somebody who's on the bubble? For me, why would I work so hard or avoid some of those things that I wanted to do if I know that my credit rating is slightly lower? I'm going to get a concession for that. Why wouldn't that create a disincentive for people to continue to work on trying to improve their credit?
Senator, you raise a great point, which is that if you incentivize something, be ready to get more of it. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And as you divorce default risk from interest rates, as you force lenders to consider other criteria that is irrelevant to that equation or sometimes completely counter to that equation, again, you are introducing systemic risk into the system.
Here's what I wish, and we're going to submit a lot of questions for the record, but here's what I wish we were having a discussion about. I just had this discussion with a mayor and town manager and council in my office. I asked them to go back and do what I continue to do when we have these affordable housing hearings. Here, I think we're making a mistake. Should we provide other ways to have people that are on the bubble of affording a home figure out a way to help them out? Absolutely. but not by cooking the books on actuarial science, not by making rating for risk not be what it really is anymore. Where does it end? Or do we just abandon it and come up with a completely different way of providing mortgages? But here's the other thing that we have to have. I've said this in finance, and I'll say it in banking. I won't go too far over. I won't throw the time limit out the window, Mr. Chair. But I have to say this. I wish that we could come together in this hearing on a bipartisan basis to talk about the underlying cost of housing that relates to overregulation and a lack of modernizing. Take a look at why would it that my county commissioners, Democrats and Republicans, expressed concerns with the waters of the U.S. because they knew it was going to increase the cost of development. They knew that it was going to elongate the permitting process, and time is money. If we really want to work up, we're going to have differences of this. Some will be ideological. Mine is just pure math on the latest advice from FHFA. But why don't we come together and look at real savings without putting water, air, or home safety at risk by taking a look at modernizing and reducing the underlying cost of housing? Because we're going to continue to have debates if we use this as the only approach of doing it. But if we get in a room on a bipartisan basis, I think we can take make it far more affordable than these games that are being played by some of our regulators. And I'm going to finish now. Sorry to go over, Mr. Chair, and I'll submit other questions for the record. Thank you all for being here.